Hello.
Technology's working, Gary.
Do you think so?
Well, I hope so, Gary. We're having a wee bit of a we've managed to split the streams on Facebook, folks. So
yeah, unknown to us, the technology's got a mind of its own and it's split itself, and we don't know how it's happened. But
if you're watching us on any of our feeds, Facebook or YouTube, welcome. Hello, how you all doing, folks?
Hello again. Week 22. Thinking things were going to get better, and we're heading for. I don't know what we're heading for. What do you think, Andy?
We're going in the opposite direction, Gary. The numbers aren't getting good. They're going.
No, I know.
But saying that, I mean, they are testing more folks, so you're going to get more positive tests. But
but the percentage is higher. It's poor. It's poor. Anyway, I've noticed quite a lot of the. There is a backlash, and there's a lot of chatter about things maybe getting done as well as they could. I completely sympathise with the events industry. The event industry is decimated, and music in particular.
Really
we need to get a bit sensible about some of it, but I fear there's a lockdown coming.
I think there is, and we part of this whole programme, as you remember, Gary, the kind of idea was to try and help folk through this difficult time, put a bit of a spotlight on some of the activities that are going on in the town, and just highlighting some of the challenges that folk are facing. But you're quite right, the live music scene, pubs, bars, restaurants are all finding it quite tough. I seen Tommy in the paper the other day there. He got some local government support for the bungalow.
Yeah, grassroots music venues are getting support, but you don't just get given it. And Renfrewshire's were only one was awarded the money. I know Tommy and Alan worked really hard at the social side and the community side of things. It's really hard to tick the right boxes, Andy, as you know, and filling in forms in the right way, and that's what it comes down to.
Absolutely. But it's been quite a busy week in Paisley this week, Gary. I mean, we had a fantastic show last week. It'd be wrong of us not to mention how good the show was.
I've been really relaxed since then.
You what?
I've been so relaxed and happy.
You've been chilled out?
Oh, God, man.
Have you had a go at that laughing yoga yet? That sounds like a Brewdog beer, doesn't it? The laughing yoga.
I thought they meant laughing yogurt. That's what are you going on about?
But it's been a busy week. But I have to tell you, Gary, the heating's on. I've put the heating on.
I'm not resisting it. I realise we're going into winter. I was going to turn up the night with a cardigan on and my leg warmers.
You're going all Valdunican on us, but it's been cold. And what's not helped, Gary, is the fact that some of the evenings have been quite clear. There's been no cloud cover, so some of the stuff that we've been able to see has been amazing. And I don't, me, I'm a bit of a geek, but this guy's been doing some fly pasts, Gary.
Is that just for outside your window?
That's. I took that for the back window there, Gary, with my iPhone.
You must have one of the big long lever things, because that's earth behind it. You must have right in behind it.
Oh no, it's a big selfie stick. I've got to take.
The cracking big selfie stick. That's what I mean.
but when you think of that, Gary, that is the International Space Station. Currently 3 folk on board, and folks, if it's clear skies, you can actually see the International Space Station at various points this week. Here's your handy public information. What's this? This is the 30th, Gary, isn't it? So if it's clear skies tonight, and I don't know, it's been a bit drizzly today. It might not be, but it'll be passing at 8:51 p.m. Folk always say, "Where do you look?" And the answer is up.
Up. Yeah.
Up and south a bit, Gary.
Andy, I know you're fascinated by that, but I looked at something. I stumbled across something middle of the week, and the clarity in the imaging from Coates Observatory during the week, and they were zooming into the moon.
Yeah.
Did you catch that?
I did, and that was a picture taken by Coates Observatory out of one of their telescopes. How amazing is that, Gary?
That was just so clear, just really, really so clear.
Yeah.
So they were they were zooming about with their big telescope, and it's fascinating. And the audience they get is really quite big. They've got a really big reach.
Yeah, they do live streams on Facebook, just like ourselves, which is great.
Yeah.
There's an app I use, Gary, which, because there's quite a lot going on in the skies right now. If you're into that kind of stuff, it's called Sky Guide, and you can look at all the different stars and go, "What's that one? Oh, that's Mars. What's that one there? Oh, that's Jupiter." And I was using that this week. I actually got a wee glimpse of Uranus as well, Gary. It was it's quite a sight to behold.
I think I'll need to leave the room. Oh dear! I thought you were talking about another a sky guide, and you were wondering what's coming up after
what's on the telly. No,
after the news.
That's a different.
We've not got Sky, Andy. We've got Council Telly up here.
Nothing wrong with that, Gary.
I don't watch a lot of rubbish on telly, but some of the stuff recently has been pretty good. I watched the thing last night. Did you watch it the night before? I think called Honour.
I thought you were going to talk about the presidential election debate, Gary, and the answer is no to both of them. I've not seen that one. Hold on a second, I've got my cup of tea coming in.
Oh, it's 2:06. You're a minute early.
I know it's a different daughter tonight, Gary. So
there you go. I know the thing last night is just the Keely Hawes. Keely Hawes is a fantastic actress. She was on I like to tune into things she's on because they're usually really good. And she was on a thing last night about honour and an honour killing of. It's a true story, but a man killed his daughter over honour.
Right.
It's in the. I don't want to talk about it too much because I'll probably get it wrong. But it was on last night. It's on STV. You'll get it in the streamer. Is that what it's called?
She was in The Bodyguard.
She's Keely.
Sorry,
Keely was.
Keely.
She was in The Bodyguard. She was in with, what's his name?
Madden, Richard.
Richard Madden. He got lucky with Keely.
Is he? I had to cover my eyes at that bit, Gary. Is he? He's an elderly boy, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he is.
We'll need to get him on the show. Are we allowed?
You get? Yeah, King of Birds of Eldersley.
King of Birds. Where were you born, Gary?
Born in the Thorn. That famous Deacon Blue record.
Is that no Eldersley, Gary?
No, aye.
So we're allowed Eldersley folk onto the Paisley Community Chat Show because you're one of the hosts.
You want to go at me?
Oh, fantastic!
George Adam of all people put me up publicly for that.
What's that?
And he found out I was from the Thorn. I was born on the Thorn. He said, "What are you doing all this Paisley stuff? Being an Eldersley boy."
Exactly.
Yeah.
You were.
I'm quite proud. There's half a Paisley's for the Thorn.
Aye, I know absolutely. Quite a lot of folk are born in there. I was a Paisley Matt.
You see, you're a lot younger, Andy.
Paisley Matt. So
technology moved. The powers that be got really, really smart, and they put a maternity hospital at the top of a hill.
I noticed that with Matt, Gary. Thankfully, either you or I were expecting at the time, Gary.
Hey?
Like, it's bad for the pregnant ladies that need to walk up the hill. It's not so difficult for us.
Oh, well, there was a burden on me walking back down that hill with my wee boy.
Ah, well.
They should have thought of that one time. Only one time.
Gary, breaking news.
Yeah. There you go, Andy.
My sister was born. You know for Paisley, Norma? That's. I'm 48, and I didn't know that my sister was born in the Thorn.
There you go. Born the Thorn. Born the Thorn, 1965. I was.
Norma, where was John born? You have to tell us. I saw a funny thing on Facebook this week. It made me laugh. Seeing as we've extended the boundaries, Gary, from Eldersley, I'm going to extend them a wee bit further to Glasgow.
Right.
And it was something I saw on Facebook. It did make me chuckle. Whichever artist came up with this is genius. But we all know some of the iconic statues in Glasgow. This one in particular is an actual painting of this person in action.
Oh, I seen that. That was pretty good. That's pretty clever.
Is that no a belter?
That's a cracker. There you go. Everybody that's watching tonight, Andy is born on the thorn.
Born in the thorn. Oh my goodness! So
Thank you, Joan. You wouldn't think, would you?
Born in the thorn, and my brother was born in the thorn. So I'm the only Paisley buddy in my family. I feel like I've been adopted or something now. I'm expecting Nick Campbell and Davina McCall to come through the door any minute now. Long lost families.
I know.
Adopted.
It does explain a few things, though.
Oh well, I suppose. There we go.
Oh, what my telly age? What do you mean?
What is your telly age?
48.
Oh, I'm 48. You're no 48, Gary.
That's my telly age. I thought, somebody asked me my age the other week, and I says, I'm 56. I'm 56. I get home and I was chatting about. I was talking to somebody earlier on. Funnily enough, I get talking about my age. I says, right. I'm 56. Karen says, you're 55.
You stick a year on, Gary. Wait, when's your birthday?
January. Every year. Unbelievable.
Watch out. So, it's been a busy week, Gary. It's Wednesday night. It's chat show time.
Yeah. A lot going on. Andy, something caught my eye this week, though.
Go on.
Leading up to the dreaded Christmas. Christmas probably won't be the same this year, but this caught my eye. It's doing the rounds on social media.
This one here?
Yeah, pretty interesting. Christmas shopping's going to be weird. Christmas is going to be weird. I thought this was a really good thing. I don't know how we get the word out even further, but a lot of people are adopting this.
Right.
If Paisley buddies that were born in the thorn can adopt this principle, then we're supporting the local economy.
Absolutely.
I think people will be quite happy getting a voucher for all over the place. I'd be quite happy getting a voucher for a restaurant for my birthday. There you go. Happy Christmas.
Yep.
All of that sort of stuff. So I want to encourage that. Shop locally. If you're struggling for a Christmas present idea this year, it's going to be weird. It's going to be strange. Pop down to your local shop. Get your 20, 30, 40, 50 quid. Get them all in an envelope. And maybe a wee note inside the envelope to say, this is why I'm giving you a voucher this year. This year has been tough, and I'm supporting the local economy.
Supporting the local shopkeepers and traders, absolutely, because everybody will sit and go, the high street and Paisley's know what it used to be. But here's one way to change that, particularly at this tough time, when the shops and the traders are finding it difficult. You're absolutely correct, Gary. We should. What we need to do, if you've got a shop out there, or if you've got a restaurant in Paisley, or if you've got something going on in Paisley and you offer vouchers, let us know about it and we'll advertise, we'll promote, no cost, obviously. I will advertise, we'll promote, we'll tell everybody, right, you can go into this restaurant, they've got vouchers for Christmas. Into this hairdresser's, no for us, obviously, Gary, but you can get into this hairdresser's and you can get vouchers there as well. So whatever
you can get trimmers.
Aye. But you know what I mean. So bars, restaurants, I dare say even cafes and stuff like that.
Cafes, PC shops.
There's a whole bunch of places. No cinema in the town though, Gary. Not yet, anyway.
No yet. But it's coming yet for all that. I would imagine. I would hope. So that's a shout out to any trader, and I think one week, Andy, we should have a really local week. Maybe in the lead up to end of November, maybe with a really local week, and we get loads of local traders on that have something to offer at Christmas, pitching their vouchers, telling people about their vouchers, telling people about their shops. We'll get everybody on that we can. So that's a plea tonight to local traders and local shops. Let's get everybody doing that this year. Let's get everybody contributing to the local economy. Let's keep Paisley alive.
Can't say fairer than that, Gary. So, what have we got planned for this evening, Gary?
A cracking show tonight. We could have loads of these history shows. Andy, Paisley history. Paisley's history obviously is steeped in so many different generations and decades and centuries of actually people being here.
Yep.
So we could have loads and loads. But tonight we've got Paula on from a Threadmill, and Les is on, local historian and all round good guy. He does his tours as well. So two fantastic guests to tell us 15-minute snapshot, try and give us a flavour of Paisley's history, get us all to buy into our heritage. That's what it's about tonight, Andy.
Absolutely. Well, without further ado, Gary, I'll bring our first guest on, who's been waiting patiently in the black and white room, Paula Reynolds. Paula.
Hello.
Hi, Paula.
How are you doing, Paula?
I'm good. I'm keeping busy.
Good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Good. It's great to see you on the show, Paula. There may be some people who don't know you or don't know the Threadmill.
Yeah.
And in age-old tradition of our show, please introduce yourself and what you do.
Okay, so yeah, I'm Paula Reynolds. I am the longest serving volunteer at the moment at Paisley Threadmill Museum, which is a small museum in Seattle Road in Paisley. I'm literally coming to you from Seattle Road because it's where I live, along the end of my street, which talks about the mill heritage in Paisley. You know, we had so much connections with thread production and textile manufacture in general, and the Paisley Threadmill Museum was designed to celebrate that. So we preserve the history around that, all the objects associated with it, because it's not just about the mill buildings themselves, it's about the people that worked there, what they produced, how they produced it, and also the products, which were so much part of life. And when people come into the museum, they're kind of like, oh, I remember my granny, auntie, cousin, whatever. And, you know, the old chat was that nobody in Paisley bought thread because everybody worked in the museum or knew somebody in the mills, or everybody knew somebody who worked in the mills. But you could also buy it as well because there was a show. That's my kind of voluntary background. On the other hand, I am also, I work for the NHS. As a nurse.
Yeah, busy.
In my full-time job, because unfortunately being a Threadmill volunteer doesn't pay the bills, sadly.
Well, on each of those, you're to be commended.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing what you do in the NHS, Paula.
Yeah.
We all appreciate it. And thanks for doing what you do, keeping alive the Threadmill.
Yeah.
Andy, I was going to ask you, did you get that video click? Does that work?
The video clicks, that one there, Gary.
Aye, we were going to maybe just do one of your videos, Paula, just as a
that's absolutely fine. Yeah,
a supplementary if it works. Andy's the tech guy.
We'll see how it goes then.
We'll see how it goes.
The only problem is, I don't think I'll be able to play the audio from it.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Probably not.
It's funny. Some folk, but what we'll do is we'll put the links up, because if it's a Facebook video, Gary, I can't download it.
You've got to have it in
to then put it in Google to play it. Technology stuff, Paula, but we'll put the links up anyway.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I mean, Paula, ultimately, everybody, mostly everyone in Paisley knows that Paisley was the town that thread built. I think that was the name of the program that was out. So,
absolutely,
synonymous with thread, synonymous with the Paisley pattern. And at one point, from an economic and employment place, Paisley was absolutely boomtown, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at one point in Paisley produced 90% of the world's thread. Now, can you imagine that? I mean, that blows my mind when I think about it, that this kind of, not just Coates and Clark's mills, but all the other mills, because eventually they did buy over everybody. That was kind of the way their business worked. But 90% of the world's thread was produced in the town. And you only have to look round in the street names and the architecture and the buildings that we have that show that heritage there. Because it's not just about what's still here, because there's still quite a lot of mill buildings around, although we've lost a lot of them. But it's also about the other buildings that are associated. We wouldn't have a town hall. We wouldn't have an observatory, which it's already been mentioned this evening.
Yeah.
Library, museum. All these things came from the Coates and Clark families. These things were coming from that, and that prosperousness that was brought by the thread production and the associated industries, because it wasn't just, you had Eadie Brothers as well, who produced the Ring Travellers, that were part of the thread making process as well.
Yeah,
I'm fascinated by the street names, Paula.
Yeah.
I mean, my office is on William Street, which some people might not know what that connection is. But I think William was one of I think it was Peter Coates' son.
Yeah.
I think it was William. Slightly further along, would they've knocked down, I think there used to be John Street, which was another one of the sons, and all the other very directly related street names like Cotton Street and Gos Street, and there'll be others.
Lawn Street, Thread Street. There are so many, and it's left its mark on the town.
Yeah.
So much, not just about the actual thread and thread manufacture. You also look up at the people that there are statues of around the town. Their Coates and Clarks, and tangentially people like Tannehill, who was a weaver. These things were linked into the industry, the textile industry that came from here. And it did kind of education-wise as well. People were educated by the mills, and before that, the weavers often educated themselves and had educational societies.
Yeah, a lot of the streets, when where you are now, Paula, was really built up to house the workers.
Yes, absolutely, because you had to kind of get to work, and over time, they had boarding houses for girls come down from the Highlands to work, and they would stay in a boarding house. They built bathhouses where it cost 1 pence for a woman to have a bath and 2 pence for a man. We're not really sure why that is, but that's the case. Yeah, our solitary male volunteer at the moment Clark is very outraged about that. He's kind of like, why was it more money for the men?
Absolutely.
But not even just things like that. They founded the Coates founded one of the first pension schemes that was open to women.
Right.
In the world. It wasn't something that was there. And even people who weren't allowed to join the pension scheme were often given pensions. I've read documents to do with the board meetings, and if they thought they were like, oh, this person's had to retire because they're really ill, let's just give them what they would have paid into the pension scheme if we'd let them into the pension scheme, because we couldn't let them in because of the way the laws were. Let's just give them a pension anyway. So there was very much a culture of looking after the workers.
I think that's
built up an industry around it,
That's very clear. I mean, when you look at almost the community that they built around the thread mills, huge, as you were saying, the number of employees that they had, the housing that they built. But then they obviously didn't keep all their wealth, because they then invested back into the town to build all these buildings, the town hall, Coates Observatory, and so on. And the town hall is currently undergoing a refurbishment right now, and the budget for that is somewhere in the region of 16 to 20 million. That's just to refurbish it, and that's in today's money. What would it have cost and the money back then, and what would that have been a proportion of? You think about how much wealth they just decided to give back into the town. That's phenomenal.
Absolutely. They thought that it was important that people went out there. Some of the Coates went round, not just locally, but gave school bags.
Yeah.
I think it was Thomas gave school bags to lots of the children. We've heard of people actually finding the school bag with the note saying where it came from. They gave libraries. They looked at Carnegie, who was building all these libraries, and said, oh, yep, we'll do that too. There was a very much an importance of it. And there's a sports legacy as well, because things like, the bowling clubs and the social clubs that they had as part of their, when the mills were moving away, they still remain. The bowling club's still around. The former, what was the cricket club and things like that. These things are still around there.
Yeah, down at Anchor Rec, Paula.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, the rugby club are there now.
Yeah, I played for the Cubs. I played for Anchor Cubs. And we used to huge amounts of. Yeah, we used to play down at the Anchor Rec and the hockey park, because we were all wee guys, and that was where we played our football. But it's great that some of that legacy still exists and is dotted around. Yeah. And of course, the museum reflects all that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just about, you know, what was produced. It's about the social aspects of it, because that's what actually people want to hear about. Because it's all very well going to a museum and like, oh, look, there's a silver object, oh, there's another object. It's about this sort of history things. So we have stories about what people have done, and you know, we have things like the last bobbin that was made and the last bobbin of thread that was spun and that sort of thing. But we also have this sort of thing. Yeah, that's one of my acquisitions for the museum on there. The beautifully coloured thread.
Wow.
That's old thread. That thread is before the Second World War. That dates from.
Look at the colour. Wow, looks
the
amazing.
colour of it, and
That's
it looks
amazing.
the same as it was then.
Yeah.
And you know, they produce so many great products that still, you know, I still stitch with thread that I know is produced before the Second World War.
Yep.
You know, I know from books of
Yeah.
labels that were given by someone on long-term loan. I know that when the labels changed and the design changed, so I can say, right, okay, that thread was before this date because of that. We've also got things like dance medals and lots of photographs as well, and staff magazines and staff newspapers. So the mills all had, like lots of places had then, you had your newspaper
Yeah.
of the place that you worked, and it would talk about who got married, who's doing this, who's leaving, who's doing this,
Yep.
all the trips that they organised, because they used to be able to go on holiday with your workmates. You know, they had trains that ran from Paisley to London to take you on holiday and overseas, and you would pay into that, and then you'd all go on holiday to different places. And we're working with the local Renfrewshire Council at the moment to try and digitise some of them, so that people are going to be able to look at them in future, because it's great having the stuff and it's great that we can get people in, but especially at the moment when we can't bring people in because
here's
of the situation.
question in from Joan. Why was the town hall built where it is positioned, where it is built? Was there any relevance to the location of where the town hall was built?
I don't know, actually.
Do we know
I
that?
know that it was memorialising George A. Clark, who went overseas, but I'm not sure. There is a kind of opening book that they had a big party when it was opened, and it was a social event, and it may be in that, but
maybe our second guest might know more.
Yeah.
He may well, to be fair, Les will often knows the answers to these.
Paul, am I right in saying it cost 20 grand?
I think it did. I think actually, I'm wanting to say it's even more than that. I'm just going to grab it and see if it's got in this.
The town hall. I think I've read somewhere that the town hall cost 20 grand to build.
But when was it built?
It cost at least that.
And what would that have been in today's money?
It was a lot of money compared
today's
to what
money.
it
It's if you're refurbishing it for 20 million, Andy, today's money, you're building that for 100 million.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. I mean, it was.
Think about the stone that's involved. You just don't. They don't build buildings like that anymore.
No.
Paula, while you're doing that, I was going to ask. I'm intrigued by some of the history of the mills and the people that came through the mills. Do you have access to the employment records?
No, we don't. We do not, but we know where they are. So the Heritage Centre have some who are currently based in where we used to be. So they've actually got the lovely glass door that is actually from the mills in there. The other place is the Business Archive at Glasgow University, where I've spent many happy hours researching all the sort of things, because they actually hold the minutes. You can go and read all the minutes of all the different meetings that they had and find out about, well, there you go, there's your answer, 20k. Eddie seems to think it was 20k, so that sounds about right. The records are there at the Business Archive at Glasgow University. Basically, Coates gave all their archive materials there. We have some things, so we have copyright records, because they were quite litigious.
Because a lot of people in Paisley still have connections to the mill. I mean, my mum worked there for a short period. I'm not really sure when it was, what she did, how long she worked there. All of that sort of stuff would be really interesting
absolutely.
to see.
The weird thing is that they actually still have an office in Mile End. The Coates. They still have an office, because one of the guys that works in it, who's in charge of what they call grey thread, which is thread before it's dyed, and he has been our contact with Coates when we've kind of had to get sort of stuff, messages through to the sort of the mothership of the business. He is kind of our liaison and the council's liaison for that. But yeah, they still have an office in Glasgow, and the pension in Paisley, and the pension scheme is still based in Glasgow, as it stands at the moment. So
quite.
I also believe they've got a connection to a very high tech business out in Shannon. I think the route of Andy, you might not know this. There's a business in Shannon that makes internal body organs.
yes.
Oh yeah,
it's a very high tech thread business.
It is indeed, yes.
And its roots were coats.
Yeah, it would be because I think everybody thinks of sewn thread as in sewing thread, but actually now the coats business is primarily on industrial stuff, and that was one of the things that they do grafts because they advertise for people to work in it sometimes, and they want people who are good at needlecrafts.
Yeah,
because they've got the fine finger movement and the kind of technical skills to actually complete this, because no matter how many machines we have, you can't replace actual fingers when it comes to that's it, Vaskitech.
That's him. Vaskitech.
That's the one. Yeah.
I've got they're a customer of ours, and we get a tour, and it's white room stuff, and it's almost like a precursor to 3D printing type of technology. It's amazing, and I was amazed to know they had roots in the mills.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Paula, Paisley Thread Mill Museum. You're, you know, you need to survive.
Yes,
you've been making some masks, which
I
think
indeed
showed last week. Let's see if I've still got the. There we go. You're selling your mask right now, and all this is, I guess, to raise money to keep the thread mill going. Is that? Could you
absolutely? Yeah. So at the moment we can't really open, partly because of where we are. So we're in Myland building. We're kind of in a space that's quite open to the public, but one of the corridors where partly our displays are based is too narrow for social distancing, so it makes it quite difficult. The other displays are in an area that it will be fine to open, but we also have the issue where the majority of our volunteers are in vulnerable age groups, and as such, it's kind of difficult. So it makes it quite difficult for us to open. And to be honest, as somebody who works with COVID response, I kind of worry a bit about putting anyone in that situation as well. So we're lucky that we get quite a bit of our premises from the guy who owns the building, Marcus Steen. But we do have some space because of the sheer amount of things that people have given us over the years.
Yep.
Coats themselves basically gave us the contents of their design studio when it's shut. We have extra space, and in order to pay for that, we rely on visitors and members to donate money. And people are really generous when the museum's open, but we haven't now been open for most of the year, and we've missed our whole season, like a lot of other people.
And other than face masks, what else are you doing to raise money? Do you have a GoFundMe page up and running, or
we are about to? We have a Just Giving page that's coming up as soon as we can get Just Giving to give the final approval. And, you know, we work quite closely with Small Shot, and we're conscious of them doing fundraising, and they need the money to survive just as much as we do. Yep. You know, we pass stuff to each other. Sometimes we'll get something donated and we're like, that doesn't really fit with our collection. We'll give it to them and pass it on, because it's a parallel thing. We always referred visitors to each other. So it's the two halves of Paisley's textile history. So we wanted to let them get a bit of funding behind them first, and because they started off and we supported them through that. And our turn will be coming very soon as I can get the Just Giving page up. That's my job.
You have to let us know about that, Paula.
I will do, don't worry. It should be imminently happening. So it is like trying to break into Fort Knox to try and get a Just Giving page. I have to say, you have to provide inordinate amounts of paperwork, and it takes much longer than you think it's going to take. So, and today we've kind of we've been busy in our sewing machines, and we've got some Paisley pattern masks, which we've just kind of launched tonight, which we're sharing on our Facebook page, because who doesn't like a bit of Paisley pattern? I don't see many Paisley pattern masks when I'm talking about Paisley. using, you know, going to my local shops. So that's what I want. I see.
Paisley pattern.
Absolutely. Well, Paisley pattern is like
Designed in Sheffield or somewhere like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Excuse me.
So we're working on, you know, so that was one of the things that people say, and we've already sent masks all over the world, sending some in America, but, you know, we've got sort of variety of, this is some of our masks. They're the highest quality, cotton, filter pockets.
These masks are stunning. We all love a mask these days. That's the fashion accessory of the year.
Everybody needs them.
Wee question in there from Councillor Devine. Do you still have the small statues of Willie Gallagher by Sandy Stoddart?
No, Sandy has it back. It was in the old museum, and we had it for quite a long time. And when we moved premises, we moved it upstairs. We were moving upstairs, and there wasn't. We were worried that somebody was going to bump into it because we're a bit more kind of open to where we are now, which has got its advantages because people can pop in and see things. But at the moment, it went back to Sandy Stoddart when he still got his place in Paisley. I do know from speaking to him a while back.
Yeah, there's a good offer from the Provost email.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's what you should do. Yeah. Now, Paula, we could talk all night about this subject actually, but I'm conscious of being the keeper of the time, Andy.
Absolutely,
Gary.
No buzzer, but I'm still conscious. We normally run over, Paula, and we are running over again, unfortunately. I just want to thank you so much for what you do again, and thanks very much for coming on our show. And it's great to be able to tell everyone, and for you to tell everyone about what you do and the Thread Mill Museum. Thanks for coming on, Paula. You can hang around if you like.
Yeah, I will do.
We'll keep you on the screen right now. Or in fact, Gary, did you have some stuff that you wanted me to cover with my gadgetry and technology here? Yeah,
before we bring in our new guest, I was doing our second guest. I was doing a bit of research on Paisley's history over the past couple of days for the show tonight.
Right.
And I was looking for a map. I was wanting to try and find Paisley's first ever map, and I probably haven't found it, but I found something that is really fascinating. And I want you to kind of zoom in and move around if you can, particularly to East End. I was fascinated by seeing this map, and it's on a website, maps.nls.uk. And there's a number of Paisley things in there. You can actually click in it. And tonight's show's about Paisley's history. So I was fascinated by this, Andy, and you can actually see some of the names that are way back then. I mean, that's 1832. There's maps that go back further, but 1832, some of the street names and some of the area names, and why Ladykirk is called Ladykirk.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic. I've immediately gravitated towards Hunter Hill, where I was brought up, and obviously you were in Thrushcreeks, Gary. But you've got. I grew up here in Marnock Terrace, and just along the road was Black Hall. So, but up here there was. I can't seem to see on it, but there was the Hunter's Keep. Just bear with me 1 second. I was looking here, Gary. Yeah. And I don't know if you saw this.
Oh, I've seen that house. Yeah. Is it still for sale?
Still for sale. If you want to be Laird of Hunter Hill, you can buy the old castle. I used to, when we were wee, Gary, it used to be a complete wreck. You know.
We were talking about that too the other day, and it was a wreck, and you used to run about it and in and around the fireplaces, and you couldn't get up those levels because they didn't exist.
They had no floors. But look at that. Is that not just a fantastic piece of Paisley history? But back onto your map, Gary, I couldn't see that, but that is Ladykirk, Ladyburn.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? And you can see right in and around. The other one, Andy, that I came across in the same
clump, Gary.
See up your end. Up your end, Andy. See that?
Find that up the clump. There's Potter Hill up there. So we're not quite there. An old quarry around here, Potter Hill, right? Okay. The clump must be the top of my hill, Gary.
There you go. I'd encourage people to try and find that. If you're interested at all in the history of Paisley, try and find that site. It's maps.nls.uk. And there's another site, that one there, Andy. I found that one fascinating, looking at Paisley's High Street and the Cross and how they drew these maps. And that's drawn by hand, Andy.
Oh, aye.
So that's Paisley Cross. I think if you need to maybe zoom in a wee bit more, and I can't really see that, but you can see just as you're zooming up to that area, just south of the Cross, all of the different place names itemised, and there's La Scala, the La Scala Picture Theatre, and to the west of that, Andy, Marks and Spencer's Bazaar.
Marks and Spencer's Bazaar. Look at that, Gary. I spotted that earlier on, and I liked the bit at the back here, stockroom. If you're ever planning a heist on Marks and Spencer's, you knew exactly what bit to hit. Yeah, I wonder, there was not a lot of banks up in the high street. I wonder if they've got their vaults noted on it as well. But
money here, Big Ara.
Big Ara. Break into this.
If you go further south, Andy, from there,
right,
zoom out a bit and go south.
Right, okay.
And down that big bit in the middle there.
That's the picture house.
So that's the picture house. So I didn't realise the picture house was so far south on that plot of land, because the access to that is the access to the Paisley Centre.
Aye, because that's the Evangelical Church. That'll be the Arts Centre, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So that's the Arts Centre. So that was New Street. So it was just, right in where the Paisley Centre is.
Isn't it fascinating?
Just trying to get my bearings there. It's amazing, Gary. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, so I wanted to let people know that history that we've got is really pretty well documented. It doesn't go as well. It will. I mean, the documentation of it will go right back to St. Mirren and the original settlement. So that's by way of teeing up our next guest, who's a fountain of all knowledge related to Paisley. So, next guest, Andy, Les Fernie.
Les.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, Les, welcome.
Pleasure to be with you tonight.
So we've teed you up, Les. We've got a bit of history there that we've already spoken about.
Yes, Paula there is very, very interesting.
So, a question that came up earlier, Les, before you introduce yourself, why was the town hall built where it's built?
Okay, the first knowledge I have of the town hall being where it is actually of the facing of the cross, and it also has this resemblance of remembering the place where St. Mirren, when came down in his oracle boat, which be a small shell, one oar, and he would kneel on it. And they came from the far side coming from the Hunter Hull area, and they came down here, and this is where he stopped and got off and rested his head for a sleep. So this is one of the reasons for Christianity of building it so close to it. The other reason being is that the foundations found there were very, very strong, believe it or not, to hold such a building. We had different Rennie and Scott who followed as being architects of designing of the actual town hall, along with W.H. Lynn, William Lynn from Ireland. And it's basically based on the same emblems and shape and design of the Irish Library in Belfast. So that's why he took it on. And I don't know if you've ever noticed that during Christmas time, and it says, always remember God in your prayers, and lights round the town hall. And that is going round actually the actual harp. There's an Irish harp. It's embedded into the facing in Dun Square, which if you take a walk down, look over from Dun Square, you'll see there's two Irish harps on either side. Also,
that's amazing, Liz.
There's a poem that went with it, just for the last thing. There was a poem that went with it, and it says, behold with pride and thus your noble pile, in splendour, beauty, classic in its style. Its massive halls, I give delight. it's blazing, cheering, and the gleaming light. That's the resembling of the town hall clock, which you'll see through all the smog at that particular time. And this is a poem that most mill workers would have remembered during their childhood of working in the anchor mills.
Now, I've got a question for you, Les, about
Yes.
the town hall clock itself. Now,
Okay.
there's a wee image for everyone to see, and hopefully if I zoom in on that one now,
Yeah. Going
we're all
good, isn't it?
familiar with the town hall clock, and it's got 4 faces,
Yes.
right? But next to the town hall clock, there is this little mini tower. And
Right.
I was once told that that tower was built, and in fact, that roof was put on top of it, that kind of sort of pointy domed roof was
Yes.
put on top of it for one particular reason. And that particular reason was that it went up high enough to obscure the clock face for the mill workers, so they wouldn't be busy clock watching all day. It was built up high enough to obscure that clock. Any truth in that one?
I wish that was true. No, it's not.
Oh,
Bubble. Oh, here you go there. But what that actually is for, if you take a good close look at it, you will see right through it from 4 angles.
Yep.
It's a ventilation shaft,
Okay.
and that's what it was for. It had to be higher up than the smog, which was down below, so the ventilation was higher up. So it was designed in a higher stance, if you may say.
So that other tower, Les, was a ventilation shaft.
Pardon?
That other tower's for ventilation.
Yes, that's ventilation. If you look through it, there's nothing covering it. And going back in 1882, when it was first opened, and it was laid by the members of the Coates' family, Lady Coates, who actually laid the first stone, which was in it. And you're right in saying, Paul, the price of it, you couldn't put a price on it. £20,000 was what they said it would be. Then and Scott came in, they architected another parts of the halls that then ramped it up to another 50,000. So when we talk about, I don't know what the figure was there, was 4.6 million.
Yeah, so 20 grand was the starting price, Les, and it went up.
Yeah, 20 grand the starting price, but 20 grand seems a popular number in Paisley.
Yeah.
Then you ask someone, how much did this cost to build? Okay, 20,000. How much did it cost to build the observatory? 20,000. And I meant to ask for that for the museum, that gallery is 20,000.
Yeah.
Now, the Coates family never gave out any numbers publicly because they didn't want to be known as being like their generosity, and then other people from different parts of Scotland might sort of come and say, well, see, you've got all that money, can you invest money in my business and things like that.
So that was the early days of begging letters.
Yeah, so, well, basically, yeah, so it kept it down to 20,000 because you've got to remember, this time the mill and the families and the Coates were building up Paisley. Paisley was built by the thread mills, you know. So we have the Coates brothers, Thomas Coates, he was the engineer, and we had Sir Peter Coates, who was the manager. And Sir Peter Coates, unfortunately, he was in Algiers at the time of reopening his new mill down there, and that's when he passed away. And his body was brought from there to Woodside Cemetery, buried amongst all the rest of the Coates' family. If you go up into the cemetery, go right up to the very top, before you get to the crematorium, it's just down on the left-hand side. That's where you'll find the resting place of the Coates family.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's actually fascinating to be up there and have a look at them and see that. I mean, that actually feels like you're looking at celebrities' graves.
We are actually, me and David are actually organising tours to go around the crematorium at this moment in time. So it's quite ironic that we're on here tonight talking about it. But there's also a Colosseum which is built inside underground in Woodside Cemetery. The Colosseum, it's based on Italian marble.
Wow.
Which when you walk inside, but that's not open for health and safety reasons. They closed it because the weight of the top coming down. You know, when you drive in to the crematorium, you get to the very top and you've got to sit and wait in the cars. I think the wait in the cars was sort of telling on the underground, yeah. So they're working very fast actually on that project at the moment. Yeah.
Wow.
Hopefully we'll manage to get and see the cribs inside. That would be great, wouldn't it?
That'll be-
Can you imagine Andy and Gary going in with a lantern?
That'll be right.
That would be fascinating. Gary sent me a cracking picture over earlier on, Les, which I'm sure you'll tell us all about. Gary, this was one of your favourites, wasn't it?
I'm fascinated by that picture, Andy. That hangs or hung in the entrance. You went up the stairs in the museum. I'm fascinated by it, not just with it being a brilliant piece of art, but about it being Paisley people of a certain time, all kind of collected there. Les, you know all about that picture.
Well, the gentleman sitting down on the carriage at the back, facing Sir Peter Coates, and the gentleman standing is Sir Thomas Coates. We have the dogs which is running about. Now, those dogs was actually supposed to be a special breed here in Paisley called the Paisley Corgi Dog. Throw a bone at that, why not? The gentleman in the back on the horse, I don't know if you can see him, Andy, Gary.
Yeah.
To the right hand side.
He's the jailer. That's John Hart. And he was the jailer of the old toll booth that sits behind him. So he was the man you gave the money to if you wanted the prisoner, i.e. the prisoner he was looking after. You could give money to get him wine, bread. If not, you get nothing. You get stale water and stale bread. So
I think that picture's dated, or it's dated from 1864, Andy.
Is that when it is? 1864. It's absolutely fascinating. I kind of want to know just where the horse and cart is on the right hand side, just kind of further up the street. A kind of person with a red jacket on and a horse.
That's the jailer.
That's the jailer.
That's John Hart.
John Hart. So that's
the famous man in Paisley. As you can notice, he's got a grand horse, not a hair out of place in it, and not a hair out of place in him either. So he was more gentry than the Coates in his family.
He was taking things left, right, and centre.
Oh yeah.
Les, is the history of that picture written down anywhere?
Yes, I have a copy of it. I have a copy of everyone that's standing there. I can remember it vividly because I had to write it by hand at the time. When I was in the library in the museum, you didn't have what they call mobile phones, so you could take a picture. You didn't have you had photocopiers, but two days to heat up. You asked what's the question, why are you wanting that? So you weren't allowed to take a photograph of it. So you had to either sketch it, handwrite it, and try and pinpoint everybody more accurate. It was quite
that's amazing, Les. You should publish that for everyone to see.
Sorry, Gary, I think that's a learning curve for those that want to trace and maybe say their ancestors or learn history. Get the bones, get the books, blow the dust off them, get the feel of the history, rather than going through the internet, etc. The internet sometimes doesn't give the true stories of what they actually
of course.
But see, I remember, sorry Gary, Andy, I went to Glasgow Mitchell Library 1697 and I got the full executions in a box where I had to get colours laid out and I had to wear gloves, and it was written in sheepskin, proper stretched sheepskin, and it was Lord Bargarin. And it says that Lord Shaw and Lady Bargarin and Christine Shaw were here when this was actually getting written. So to actually handle those things, get them in the box, and get the feel of history coming through. I get quite passionate, sorry.
It's fascinating.
And it's great to hear it coming across, Les. And I know, having been in one of your tours, how much fun it can be educationally. And when you stopped on one of your tours, and it's all about looking up, sometimes we're very very guilty of just walking along, especially nowadays, the younger generation walking along in their phones. But looking up is something that we want to encourage people to do as well, because Paisley's architecture is stunning, and some of the stories behind it. And I learned from you about the story of this image.
This image, do you want me to tell who it is? This image of a man called King Solomon, dating back from David the First. And if you look at looking at it from left to right, he's got his foot out, and his foot is actually beside the world, and he's holding the world. But he's also here with the torch, which is the guiding light. This was one of the first Masonic lodges here in Paisley, where we had the Calvinian Lodge, St Mirren Lodge, and the Mirren Lodge, and St James's. They then moved from here to Thomas Street, and this is where the lodge is now at present day. We don't have the lodge here in the High Street anymore. It moved over down there to Thomas Street. So there is certain days and doors open there that you can walk in and have a look. There's no secrets. We tell everything as it is, as I do. So we, as you say, you got to look up that, you know, the other famous building, it's where they're building the library at the moment, Lord Senko's house.
Right.
And Lord Senko's house, the plaque, it sits up there on the very, very top. There's a tree growing out of it just now. There's a plaque up there, and in that plaque is 2 hunting hounds, and it's surrounded by his crest. Now, that crest was taken from the West End, St Paul Street. I don't know if you remember the Bar Point.
Yeah.
Right, that give you a location. That's the location of where his house was, right? So when they took the plaque down, 10,000 people moved with the plaque in 1883, and they surrounded it on the top here, on the top of that building. But also, when you look at the building, they have the Lady of the Lake. You can see her head very prominent in the middle of the mullion. Then we come further down, and then you see all the wildlife coming out the bottom. Everything is detailed from his travels through from Lochwinnoch to Paisley. And because it was Paisley townhouse, he brought Lochwinnoch with him. Famous people stayed there was our Minister, Reverend John Witherspoon, who was the signer of the Declaration of Independence. He didn't stay only stayed for a couple of nights, that type of thing, rather than returning home in bad weather. So it was a good resting place if you were here in the town. If you knew Mr. Semple, you contacted him by telegram, and you could ask if you could stay overnight in his house of residence. So absolutely fascinating. This is the things that we have to bring out. And talking about where I had two girls out on tour on Sunday there, and I was explaining to them about genealogy, archaeology, and they say, so what's that marble there? That's Italian marble. And the next one down towards, what do you call it, Marks and Spencer's, you call it the Penny Arcade, the Bazaar. That's made out of Mexican marble, the dry risers, which is in the front. So I only learned that about 15, 20 years ago by a genealogist who was out looking at stones, and I asked the question, what are you looking for? Can I help you? You know, that type of idea. And she said, well, can you? She says, can you tell me what these stones are? I said, they're marble. Well, what kind of marble? Couldn't tell. So obviously she enlightened me a bit more. So I like to enlighten other visitors who might have the same interest and that type of thing. So it is fascinating when you talk to people, and if you don't know something, tell me you don't know, and they'll tell you.
Yeah. And of course, Paisley's got a very proud past in cinema, which is something that myself and Gary and Paisley Community Trust are very passionate about bringing back. And this is another belter of a picture of La Scala back in the day. It must have been someplace in its time, Les.
It must have been, yes. As you say, it went all the way back southwards. Absolutely fascinating. I, as a young kid, when you go in there, all you did was get your ticket and you sort of ran round the fountain and all the way round and up to the top, and then that was you. You're going in the gallery and towards the picture house. But yeah, it was fascinating going down and walking such distance to get. You were in the cinema, but you had to get to the gallery to get in and up the steps. Then you went in, gave your ticket over, and the usherette went down the torch and told you where to sit. But yeah, he didn't sit there, did he? Get moving to seat where your pals were. You moved where your pals were, not where you were told to sit. That was the game. That was the fun. The usherettes, get back to seat. They all knew about it, and we had a good laugh. Nobody was. There was nothing untoward. So yeah, it was all good, positive cases. I say.
There's a lot of people giving you a lot of
thanks.
lot of praise, Les, and it's really fascinating and inspiring every time I hear you speaking about Paisley and on your tours. I know that you're continuing with your tours just now, but you've got a bit of news for us.
Yes, for those that follow me on a regular basis through Facebook and Twitter and all that sort of thing, thanks very much for your support. I am handing the tours, the baton over to a good friend of mine who's going to be on your show very soon, David Roy. And David does Dark Side Tours, and he does a tremendous amount of the dark side things that I knew but didn't fully know, and he enlightened me a bit more. So if you think you do know, believe me, you get with this guy, the hairs in the back of your neck will be standing up. Not just because you're paying your £5, but your hairs back.
Well, we're going to talk about our plans.
Has he never opened his wallet before?
Listen, we're going to talk about our plans for David.
Yes, I would say too much.
But that's good to know that the legacy, Les, is continuing, because you want to make sure that information, that knowledge, that those stories just continue to get, first of all, passed on, but secondly, they get told, and we celebrate our brilliant past. And it's great that we've got establishments like the Paisley Thread Mill Museum. We don't want to see those places disappear because of funding.
No, that's essential to keep going.
People at Paula to keep things going. Paula doing a fantastic job.
Okay.
Really, really fantastic. Every time I go down there, I see something different. So always make an effort to go down and see the Mill Museum when it has to get opened up again. Hopefully very soon, Paula.
I think we're probably talking next year, just because of the way things are.
Yes,
but we'll be back with new displays, I'm sure, by that point, and lots of, because we're always getting new stories and new stuff, and there's always sort of things going on. That makes me think of a weird
more
story.
thing, guys. Me and David have 2 special tours coming through in October. It's part of the Oktoberfest sort of thing. I spoke to you before about it, Gary, about doing the Oktoberfest, and it's 2 tours for a £5. Yeah. Plus, if you pay another £5, you get your lunch included. So £10, you get 2 tours plus your lunch. Now, you can't argue more than that.
Not at all.
We'll look after you catering wise too.
How can people find out about that, Les? What's your page that people can find out about your tours and book them?
They can find out more about it in the Walking Tours on Wheels Facebook page. If not, pop into the Paisley in shops, just next to where Cafe Sue is, and you can get your tickets personally from there. Tickets will be going online as through Eventbrite, and we'll be selling them through there by the end of this week. So please keep note, and you can get your tickets online if you can't manage into the shop, and we can then look after you. When you come into the shop, we can give you more information on the tours and how they're going to operate.
Now, Les, you mentioned that you're handed over to David, so that means that you're obviously going to be, hanging up your tour guide coat for a. We've got to. I know that COVID's a big challenge right now. We're getting lots of people together, but your tours can take place outside socially distanced. Is that correct?
I'm going to have to bust your bubble again. And we have radio communications. We have put Paisley up to another level
Oh,
we
wow.
have digital earpieces that you wear,
Right.
and whoever's doing the tour will speak into the microphone, and you have your social distances.
And they're socially distanced.
That's fantastic.
We also supply face masks, as we have the visors as well. We give them out to you as well.
So you've heard it here, folks. If you want to be on one of Les's final tours of Paisley, before he hangs up his wheels for, you know, the last time and retires from the game, I'm sure you'll be keeping in touch with us. You should sign up, and all the details can be found here.
Thank you,
one, Les?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Yes.
There you go. So anyone that wants to go on one of Les, when's your next one, Les?
Well, next one is going to be on the 10th of October.
Okay, so not far away, Les.
So, and it's for children as well. It's not just for us guys and that sort of thing. It's more for the kids. This is where we get the kids out. We can maybe plant a wee bit of seed that they might want to go and research something of their own about the town.
Fantastic, Les. And obviously, if you want to know anything about the Paisley Threadmill, that is the Facebook page as well, folks. So we would encourage all of you to support. I mean, we talked about support right at the start, you know, buying gift vouchers for, you know, with local traders for your friends and family for Christmas. You know, if you can donate to the Paisley Threadmill Museum, you know, that will really continue to make a difference. If you can go on one of the tours that Les is organising, again, you know, money spent locally, every pound gets flipped 6 times locally.
Absolutely, yeah.
So important.
We also, if you do want to know more about the quotes, we have we sell copies of this book, which is Seems So Long Ago, which is written by Brian Coates, who was the last Coates to be involved with the family business. He's now retired. He lives in America now, and is very generously given us copies of the book to sell to keep the museum going, and has done for a number of years now, and does visit Paisley usually with people from the Coates company every year to just basically show people this is where the Coates company came from. Yeah. So he really does kind of keep his hand in, even all those years later.
There's a message to both of you from Lorraine, our provost, to thank you both for your dedication and keeping Paisley's history and culture alive. It couldn't be done without kind people like you, and the personal thanks from myself and Andy, I'm sure, for your dedication, all your hard work over the years. Long may it continue. Want to give you big thanks for coming on our show tonight. It's been fascinating. We could go on all night. We could have a series of these Paisley history shows.
Oh, amazing.
We've not even spoke to you, Les, about the FITBA yet. We'll need to keep that for another time. We'll keep it for
you could talk about the eel farm that was associated with the mills.
Oh, geez, there was
an eel farm. There really was an eel farm.
Exactly. There's so much we could talk about. For now, absolutely. Les, Paula, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been fantastic.
Thank you.
Hang around, don't go away.
We're with you shortly. I mean, that's only just a wee sprinkling of Paisley's history, and I'm taken aback with it all. It's fantastic.
It's just all fascinating, Andy. I mean, see that Les was saying, don't go on the internet, go in the books.
Aye.
I'd like to do that one day, but even going into the internet today, finding those maps and hovering around the maps and finding there's a place name, and I found a map that maybe you didn't show or you couldn't see it. As you go up Nielsen Road and you turn left into Rowan Street,
right
at the top of this bit of the map at Rowan Street, it says heading towards Thrushcraigs. These wee things are just fascinating because they connect you to your town. That's where I was from. That's where I was brought up.
Absolutely. I mean, we always talk about this. There's some fantastic Facebook groups out there, and I'd just like to thank all of the admins of the Facebook groups that let us post and promote various things on it from time to time. So thank you for all of that, and we let you all know about the chat show and your opportunities to participate. But there was a great image. I think it was on Brian's, and it was this one. I decided to make that full screen, rather than with the kind of red curtains behind. But I don't know exactly when this one was taken. But the thing that struck me was all of those smokestacks.
Yeah, all the chimneys.
There's just so many of those smokestacks just up, and you wonder what it would have been like to live there. Look at how densely packed those houses are.
Yeah, all of those is a micro business, Andy. Each of those is a micro business. Before the mills came along, and then the mills bought each of them up and created the mill culture.
Consolidated them all.
And that's fascinating. On that website that I found, Andy, with the maps, there's actually an image like that. And it's like a painting from way back in time, and it was with the back of the fields, a couple of people walking around the fields. You see the abbey just there. It's just fascinating to see. And I mean, our history. I went and seen the Pace show at the abbey for the 850th anniversary of the abbey, I think it was.
Right.
And it's just fascinating. They told the story of the centuries, and the catch line throughout it all was, and the river still runs through.
Yeah.
I find it all really fascinating. I tried to find something related to Causeway Side. Les mentioned earlier about St Mirren coming down and resting his head. So Causeway Side was where's the crossing point.
Oh, okay.
With at the bottom of Dun Square.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah.
Across to the Abbey.
Yeah.
Was the causeway, so that's the low point of the river. So that's where they used to cross the river.
Yeah. There's some brilliant. I mean, just there's so much detail on it, and we'll need to all make sure that we get on to Leslie's tour before he winds them up. But of course, he mentioned that he's handing the keys over to David, and we'll talk about David in a wee second. But we're getting great feedback, and a lot of people really enjoying the show tonight, which is great. And the reality is, there's just there's Joan saying we need to do another history night. Bring back both of these guests, please. I mean, I think we could probably do a 2-hour special, Gary, with a wee break in the middle. How about that?
Yeah, we could. I mean, and as always, Andy, the guests are fantastic, and they make our show. The show would be nothing without our guests.
Yeah, it would absolutely be nothing without our guests. Now, folks, we usually tell you all about our kind of next week sort of thing. And have we got plans yet for next week, Gary? Are you still working on them? Yeah,
we've got loads of plans.
We've got tons of plans. But one thing that we talked about was David Roy. Now, David is Darkside Tours, and we're doing a wee bit of future planning, and we're going to do a special Halloween show on October the 28th. So that's the Wednesday before Halloween. I'll just check my dates.
We're on there, aren't we?
Wednesday the 28th of October. So 31st obviously is Halloween. So we're going to do a special Halloween special. We're going to have some fantastic guests, and we're going to have David on to tell us some scary stories.
So David's a guy who works with Les, and Les is handing over the tours to David, and David's steeped in the history of the town as well. And we want some of the darker side of Paisley. We want to tell some of the story of the heritage of our town as well through Halloween. But it's good to be light-hearted as usual.
And
yes, great question, Paul.
It is a dress-up special, folks. No Halloween party would be complete without getting dressed up. Paul, I've seen some of your outfits over the last few years. I've struggled to look you straight in the eye. So,
Andy, I'll need to be a dress-up pop-in.
Well, dress-up pop-in, so you can either come live on the show dressed up, or you can post up your pictures, and we'll try and get the best of them up on the screen. Yeah. And you never know, myself and Gary might get dressed up as well.
Could be.
Should be good.
Yeah, and there might be a bit of singing.
Oh, is there going to be singing, Gary? No from us.
No, we'll have guests on. It'll be an hour and a half long.
Professional,
proper singing guests. It's got to be Paisley Connection, so we've got that organised.
So that'll be great.
Didn't tell you about that, Andy, did I? But we've got that organised.
Go on.
What I told you about is organised.
Oh, it's organised.
Yeah, it's organised.
Oh, right. Is that organised then? Oh,
yeah. It's good. Eh?
You don't want to miss that, folks. We'll see what Gary's
great.
organised. It's going to be great.
Could be anything.
It's going to be great.
Oh dear.
Worried now. Paul's already planning his outfit.
Yeah, so Paul will need to pop on. So if you want to pop on, the link will go up. We'll expect you to be in fancy dress.
I've seen some of Paul's outfits, and as long as he doesn't pop out, we'll be absolutely fine.
Oh, one of them.
Say no more.
Okay, but that's 28th of October. A wee bit ahead, but it's just to tee it up for everyone. Look out your fancy dress. I know again it's going to be strange this year. There won't be anyone coming to your door. I would think. Won't be any kids round. But we want to be able to still celebrate. We maybe look into a bit of Halloween history as well. And Samhain, but Samhain. Andy, I think that's how it's pronounced.
No.
Yeah, that's the old Celtic Halloween.
Halloween, all right, okay. And of course, you can carve some pumpkins, or if you want to be traditional, your turnips.
I've still got my turnips.
Your trousers, Gary.
And my Doc Marten shoots. So that's going to be cracking fun. It's going to be fun, but still we'll tell the story. Paisley's heritage. David's coming on, and we've got a couple of cracking guests, and a good few things lined up. Any ideas you've got? Let us know. Drop us a note.
And we'll get them on. Good stuff. Anything else to cover tonight, Gary, or are we done?
We're done. Just maybe want to reiterate, Andy, about it's not going to be the same this year. No. Let's shop local. Let's support our local economy. We'll keep that going. We'll get some people on talking about that, Andy. But that's the show for tonight, folks. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks everyone for your fantastic feedback for our guests. Weren't they fantastic? So that's all tonight, Andy, I think. So from me, good night.
Good night, folks. See you later.
Thank you very much.